Chapter 847. Whether it was killing Yi Kun and his son or annihilating the Yi family, Yi Ling had never thought of this. He wanted to kill Yi Ting because Yi Ting had humiliated him previously. The hatred that he had accumulated for so many years had finally turned into killing intent under Chu Xiu's incitement. However, Yi Kun and eldest young master Yi Ling had never humiliated him. Now that he was living well in the Yi family, why did they still want him to kill? For the first time, Yi Xiao felt an obvious resistance towards Chu Xiu. Why do you want to kill the master and eldest young master? Chu Xiu sneered and said, "You've been a steward for a few days and you've lost your sense of direction after being addressed as Lord a few times? Even if you don't kill them, they will suppress you sooner or later. What do you rely on to stand out in the Xiao family now? Do you rely on your own strength? Wrong, you rely on others to intimidate them. Yi Kun and his son think that Sun Zhongming thinks highly of you, so they put in so much effort on you. However, haven't you noticed that their attitude towards you has changed subtly?" Yi Xiao said blankly, "What change? I've done everything I should have done. I've completed all the tasks that the master gave me." "Yes, you've done very well, to the point that you've surpassed Yi Ling. He's the true heir of the Yi family, the eldest young master of the Yi family. What right do you have to do better than the heir of the Yi family?" Yi Xiao immediately wanted to retort when he heard this, but he swallowed his words before they could leave his mouth. He was not an idiot. He knew that one's achievements could overawe the master. If Sun Zhongming didn't think highly of you, you would only be a collateral disciple no matter how outstanding your performance was. You might become a steward of the Yi family in the future, a pillar of support for the Yi family, but that's all. However, Sun Zhongming thinks highly of you now. What does this mean? It means that Sun Zhongming might interfere with the Yi family's affairs as the Sun family of River East and forcefully support you to the position of master of the Yi family. The Yi family belongs to the direct line of descent. It belongs to Yi Kun and Yi Ling, but it doesn't belong to you. The one who strikes first gains the upper hand, and the one who strikes later suffers a calamity. Don't tell me you want to wait for them to attack first." Chu Xiu's words constantly impacted Yi Xiao's worldview. Perhaps he still couldn't believe that the human heart could be so complicated and vicious. In fact, he was indeed unable to believe it because even though Yi Ting frequently bullied him in the past, Yi Ling had helped him in the past. In his eyes, Yi Kun, the family head, was a selfless person. He could not believe that Yi Kun would think this way. Therefore, Yi Xiao said directly, "Senior, if you want me to do something else, I can do it. But if you want me to kill my own clansmen because of this kind of speculation, forgive me for not being able to do it." Chu Xiu didn't force him. He just smiled and said, "Can't do it? I'll only say this once. I'll wait for the day when you can do it, but I hope you won't regret it at that time." This Yi Xiao was still too young. He saw things too simply. No matter how much they fought, they were still father and son, while he, Yi Xiao, was only an ordinary branch disciple. In the past, Yi Ling had helped Yi Xiao purely because he wanted to disgust his younger brother, and at the same time, he wanted to show his respect. As for Yi Kun, as the family head, even if he had selfish motives, he couldn't show it in public. As for secretly, he only represented the direct line of descent of the Yi family. Naturally, he was thinking of his own son. Even though Yi Xiao didn't completely believe what Chu Xiu had said, he still paid attention and discovered some suspicious points. Yi Kun and his son's attitude towards him was indeed somewhat abnormal. A few days later, the Yi family had a meeting. Yi Kun sat on the main seat and rubbed his head with a slight headache. He said, "You should know about the fallout between the River East Sun family and the Gao Ping Lu family. Not only have they not reconciled, but the conflict has become even more intense, and the flames of war have already spread to the lower levels. Our Yi family has supplied the River East Sun family with ores for so many years, and both parties have long been bound to suffer and prosper together. However, the Jianghu family in the Ji State Prefecture has already defected to the Lu family. Our two families are both in the Ji State Prefecture, and there is bound to be a battle. Therefore, the trade caravans that come and go should be more cautious, Yi Shao. Yi Shao perked up and hurriedly said, "Yes, master." The trade caravans were under his jurisdiction, so Yi Shao thought that Yi Kun was preparing to increase his manpower to prevent the Jiang family from attacking their trade caravans. However, Yi Kun said at that moment, compared to the trade caravans, the Yi family's mine is the foundation. Therefore, during this period, you should go to the mine and help second uncle guard it. I will send more elders from the family to manage the trade caravans. When Yi Shao heard this, his face suddenly turned pale. He was not an idiot. Although the Yi family's mine was indeed more important than the trade caravans in name, there was already an elder warrior from the Yi family guarding the mine. Even Yi Kun had to address him as second uncle. If a junior like him went, he would basically be a figurehead. Yi Kun was clearly stripping him of his authority. However, he did not dare to refute Yi Kun, so he could only nod in agreement. The other disciples of the Yi clan looked at Yi Shao with a subtle expression. Yi Shao had been in the limelight during this period, but it was best for people to keep a low profile and not be too arrogant. Now, he was beaten back to his original state. Yi Shao packed up his belongings and headed to the mine. The outcome was already decided. Although the mine was the foundation of the Yi family, it had always been a place for the Yi family to retire. In the past, when Yi Ling was in charge of the mine, he would only go there occasionally. It was always a few elders from the family who were stationed there. Yi Shao was an outstanding disciple of the younger generation, but now he was sent to the mine to retire. It was obvious what this meant. After Yi Ling left, Yi Kun sighed and said, "What a pity." Yi Ling asked in surprise, "What's a pity?" Yi Kun said mildly, "It's not that the Yi family cannot tolerate others, but Yi Shao was first favored by the young master of the Sun family, and now he has displayed such strength. If we don't suppress him, who knows who the Yi family will belong to in the future." At this point, Yi Kun even glared at Yi Ling, "If you had worked harder and suppressed Yi Shao, why would I have to be the bad guy?" Yi Ling's face was gloomy. Who would have thought that the previously mediocre and somewhat cowardly Yi Zhao's cultivation would improve by leaps and bounds after a trip to the Sun family? Even Yi Kun felt a little pressured. After being sent to the mine for a month, Yi Shao was about to go crazy. After tasting the taste of power and influence, no one could let it go. At the same time, Yi Shao felt a deep sense of grievance and indignation. During this period, he had diligently led the Yi family caravan to various places in eastern Qi. His speed was much faster than those lazy elders from the Yi family. In the end, he had made so many contributions, yet he was banished to this place. What right did he have? Chu Xiu's voice rang quietly in his ear. "Do you believe my words now? If you return to the Yi family now, there might be a surprise waiting for you." Yi Shao gritted his teeth. This time, he finally listened to Chu Xiu. He left without saying goodbye and secretly rushed back to the Yi family. When he returned to the Yi family, the first person he went to see was his father. All these years, Yi Shao had used his own allowance to keep his father alive. It could be said that the entire Ji state capital knew of Yi Zhao's reputation. Although some people said that he was foolish, they had to admit that he was a filial son. However, when he returned to the Yi family and returned to his courtyard, he found that it was empty. The servant girl who had served him was gone, and his father was gone as well. Yi Zhao's heart immediately sank. He hurriedly ran out and pulled over a Yi family servant. He asked loudly, "Where is my father? Where did my father go?" The Yi family servant was stunned and asked in surprise, "Young Master Yi Shao, why are you here? Let me ask you, where did my father go?" The servant was shocked by Yi Zhao's bloodshot eyes. He hurriedly said, "Your father passed away half a month ago." Yi Shao was stunned and murmured, "Impossible. Impossible. I had clearly instructed the servant girls to take care of my father." I have given them my monthly allowance. How could he have left? Why didn't anyone tell me? The servant shrank his neck and said, after you left, eldest young master reduced your allowance to the same level as before. That small amount of allowance was not enough to feed so many servant girls, much less for healing medicine. As for why I didn't tell you, I'm not sure either. Yi Xiao stood there dejectedly. He had not expected that his forbearance would lead to such an outcome. At that moment, Yi Ling received news of his return. Yi Ling stormed in angrily and said coldly, "Who allowed you to leave your post without the family's orders?" Yi Xiao's eyes were red as he said, "Why did you reduce my allowance? Why didn't you tell me that something had happened to my father?" Yi Ling frowned and said, "You were previously the steward of the merchant group. Now that you have gone to the mines, you no longer hold the title of steward. Is it wrong for me to restore your allowance to what it was before? Moreover, the Yi family is in constant conflict with the Jiang family. How would we have the time to care about your matters?" Yi Xiao's eyes were red as he turned and left. Yi Ling, who was behind him, snorted coldly and said, "Leave. Leave your post without permission. You will receive punishment from the family later." Outside the long street, Yi Xiao's eyes were red as he muttered, "Why? Why?" Chu Xiu's voice rang in Yi Xiao's ear. "Why? Because you are not the son of the family leader. It is because your existence is in the way of some people. Do you think that every family leader is selfless and will think for the entire family? If Yi Kun had such awareness, the Yi family would not be in its current state. Do you still not understand, lad? Your father was severely injured and crippled for the sake of the family. Your so-called family only threw some money at him at the beginning and then ignored him. You can already foresee their cold nature. Now, you should know what you should do, right?" Yi Xiao's eyes were red as he gripped the sword in his hand tightly. He said coldly, "Kill." Chapter 848. In the great hall of the Yi family, Yi Kun could not help but frown when he heard Yi Ling report that Yi Xiao had returned. "Big brother, you were a little rash in this matter. I had just removed Yi Xiao from his position as the steward of the caravan. You reduced his allowance and caused his father's death. This will cause the rest of the clan to criticize you. You must know that you will be the future head of the family. You should be more open-minded about these small matters. You must not allow others to gossip about you." Yi Ling hurriedly said, "I understand, father. I was a little anxious. However, he is no longer a steward now. I feel that it is a waste for him to still take his allowance." Just as Yi Ling was about to say something, Yi Xiao suddenly walked into the great hall. Yi Ling was a little surprised. Where were the disciples guarding the door? Had they secretly gone to drink again? When he became the head of the family in the future, he should really discipline these people. They could not be as undisciplined as they were now. Yi Ling walked over and snorted coldly. "Now you know to come back and ask for forgiveness. You left your post without the family's permission and chose to do so at a time when the Yi family and the Jiang family are so close. Do you know?" Before Yi Ling could finish speaking, a cold glint had already slashed across his neck. At such a close distance, and with such a fast slash, Yi Ling's head flew into the air. Only then did he react. Why did the corpse below look so much like his own? "Yi Xiao!" Yi Kun roared in rage. He could not believe that Yi Xiao had dared to kill his eldest son in front of him. Yi Kun's figure moved. He could no longer care about anything else. He did not have a weapon in hand, so he gathered all the vital energy in his body and grabbed at Yi Xiao. Yi Xiao was holding the precious weapon dagger in his hand. However, there was a huge realm difference between them. He could kill Yi Ling with a sneak attack, but he was not confident that he could kill Yi Kun, even with a precious weapon. However, Yi Xiao had already made up his mind. After killing someone, his ferocious nature was completely aroused. He did not dodge or retreat. He watched as Yi Kuan's palm landed on his chest. With a wave of his right hand, the qi and blood condensed in Yi Ling's body attached to his hand. Like a blade, it pierced through Yi Kuan's protective vital energy and stabbed into his chest. With Yi Zhao's current strength, he could not even release his inner force, let alone the blood-dissipating divine saber. Therefore, he could only use all his strength, condensing the power of his qi and blood in his hand, and kill Yi Kuan with a knife hand. However, the price he paid was that he took Yi Kuan's palm head-on and had his meridians shattered. Yi Zhao spat blood as he looked at Yi Kuan, and his face carried a trace of a ferocious smile. I forgot to tell you, your second son, Yi Ting, was killed by me as well. Along with Yi Zhao slowly pulling his hand out from Yi Ting's body, he instantly fell to sit on the ground, and the strength in his entire body seemed as if it had been sucked dry. Chu Xiu said indifferently, if I were you right now, I would quickly absorb Yi Kuan and his son's vital energy and blood, and then escape. The people of the Yi clan are not idiots. Although the commotion here is not too big, as long as one person accidentally discovers it, you will not be able to leave the Yi clan today. Yi Zhao gritted his teeth. He used the great demonic blood technique to absorb the blood qi and was about to leave. However, Chu Xiu said, bring the heads of both of them. Yi Zhao was stunned. Why? For the sake of annihilating the Yi clan, of course. With your current half-dead state, how will you annihilate the Yi clan by relying on your own strength? Even though Yi Zhao didn't know what Chu Xiu meant, he noticed now that so long as he did as this senior said, then there wouldn't be any problems. If he listened to this senior at that time, then perhaps his father wouldn't have died. Within the blood soul pearl, Lu Jiang he clicked his tongue and sighed as he looked at Yi Zhao, who was extremely proficient in cutting off heads and fleeing, and he said, this kid really got into character quickly. But at this moment, he suddenly changed the topic and said, you did it intentionally earlier, right? Chu Xiu's brows raised as he said, what intentionally? Lu Jianghe's eyes narrowed as he looked at Chu Xiu and said, if you told that kid Yi Zhao the cause and effect of everything in detail, and then forcefully made him listen to you, then perhaps his father wouldn't have to die. Chu Xiu said faintly, you're right, I did it intentionally. How can one grow without going through hardships? People can buy anything in this life, but they can't buy medicine for regret. There's only one choice, and I've already told him everything, but he still made a wrong choice, so he can't blame anyone else. It's his opportunity to meet me, and I'm using him to reconstruct my body. Everything I've given him in this process is a reward. But if he can't seize this opportunity, then he can't blame anyone else. People have to learn to make choices, don't they? Lu Jiang he was speechless. He seemed to have discovered that Chu Xiu was really cold to the extreme. Apart from his few good friends, Chu Xiu's attitude towards others had always been to trample those who stood in his way to death, and kill those who opposed him. As for others, if they wanted to live or die, what did it have to do with him? It was the same for this kid outside now. Lu Jiang he had thought that Chu Xiu was going to train this kid well and make him a disciple. Now, it seemed that Chu Xiu might have such intentions. However, if this kid couldn't hold on during the training process, then he could only blame himself for being unlucky. Meanwhile, in the outside world, Yi Zhao hurriedly left the Yi family after cutting off the two heads. It had to be said that the management of the Yi family was extremely lax. The servants who were patrolling at night were all lazy. In addition, Yi Zhao was an acquaintance, and the news of his return had been known by many people. Therefore, no one stopped him, allowing him to leave the Yi family smoothly. Senior, where should we go now? Yi Zhao began to subconsciously ask Chu Xiu what they should do next. Do you know where the Jiang family, which is opposing your Yi family, is? Of course I do. Throw the two heads in the Jiang family's courtyard, and then you don't have to worry about it. The Jiang family will help you deal with the rest. Yi Zhao was stunned for a moment, but then he understood what Chu Xiu meant. He couldn't help but tremble. The Jiang family and the Yi family had long been like fire and water because of the battle between the Sun family and the Lu family of Gao Ping. Now that the Jiang family had seen the heads of the Yi family's father and son, how could they not take action? The most important thing was to take advantage of this opportunity to destroy the Yi family. At that time, who would care about how the Yi family's father and son died? Yi Shao suddenly realized that this mysterious senior's strength might not be in martial arts, but in the calculation of the overall situation in people's hearts. He easily used the hatred between the two families to easily solve everything. Perhaps even he himself was a chess piece controlled by this senior and was being calculated and manipulated. Yi Shao did not dare to think about deeper things, nor could he think about it. At least, following this senior, he could get visible benefits, and that was enough. What happened next was just as Chu Xiu expected. After the Jiang family found the heads of Yi Kun and his son, they immediately took action and brought people to destroy the Yi family. With such great news, the Jiang family didn't care whether it was strange or not. After destroying the Yi family, they could go to the Lu family of Gao Ping to claim credit. When the Yi family was destroyed, Yi Shao watched from a restaurant not far from the Yi family. Seeing the Yi family, which gave birth to and raised him, indirectly destroyed in his own hands, Yi Shao felt a little complicated for a moment. However, he quickly stabilized his emotions and asked, "Senior, what should we do now?" Chu Xiu said slowly, "Go to River East and find Sun Zhongming. Your family was destroyed in the battle between the Sun family and the Lu family. Now you can only rely on him. There is only one thing I need you to do, and that is to become Sun Zhongming's confidant. I will help you achieve this, and you just need to promise not to give yourself away." Yi Shao nodded, looked back at the family one last time, and turned to leave. Half a month later, in the Sun family of River East, Yi Shao told Sun Zhongming what happened to the Yi family with a sorrowful face. According to him, the Yi family was destroyed because they stood firmly on the side of the Sun family. Compared to before, Yi Shao's acting skills were much better at this time. Although he couldn't be compared to Chu Xiu, who Lu Jiang he said was lying through his teeth, at least Sun Zhongming didn't see anything wrong. Hearing this, he suddenly snorted coldly and said, "Lu family of Gao Ping, you have gone too far." During this time, the friction between the Sun family and the Lu family of Gao Ping had been continuous, and even more intense. The reason was very simple. Neither family wanted to give up the cultivation methods in their hands. Among the things that were taken from the illusory six realms, the cultivation methods that the Sun family and the Lu family had obtained were one of the most precious. The Sun family wanted this cultivation method because although the Sun family's true ice chi was not weak, it was not strong either. For so many years, the Sun family could rely on this not too strong cultivation method to continuously produce several true fire spirit refinement realm experts. It could only be said that the Sun family kept a low profile and endured patiently. Their family business was indeed not weak, and they also had the protection of their ancestors. However, if they could obtain a cultivation method above the 9 refinement realm, it would be even better to improve the Sun family's martial arts. The reason why the Lu family of Gao Ping did not give up was that part of this cultivation method was related to spear techniques, which could be integrated into their martial arts. Naturally, they were not willing to give up. As for why they did not join forces to learn this cultivation method together, the reason was very simple. No force was willing to show their core cultivation method to the public. Once their core cultivation method was obtained by others, even if others did not cultivate it, they would be able to deduce their weaknesses based on the cultivation method. This was equivalent to handing over their weaknesses to others. Of course, the Sun family and the Lu family were not willing to let this happen. Sun Zhongming patted Yi Shao on the shoulder and said, "Your Yi family is in trouble because of my Sun family. From now on, you will follow me. I will not mistreat you." Sigh, this is not the first time something like this has happened. My Sun family and the Lu family of Gao Ping have been in constant conflict recently, and it has already affected some of the vassal families. My Sun family has been low-key these years, and the number of vassal families is far less than that of the Lu family. In this regard, we are still at a disadvantage. At this moment, Yi Shao suddenly froze, then said directly, "Young master, I have a plan that can solve this problem." Chapter 849. Sun Zhongming only had a good impression of Yi Shao. From his point of view, this disciple of a small family was very much to his liking. It wouldn't be a bad idea to keep him by his side as a follower. But now, Yi Shao actually said that he had a way to solve this matter. This was a little too arrogant. Sun Zhongming thought that Yi Shao was eager to gain merit after joining him, which made Sun Zhongming somewhat unhappy. Hence, Sun Zhongming furrowed his brows. "You have a way?" Yi Shao nodded. "Young master, those so-called vassal families aren't that close to the Lu clan. Some of them can be bribed with money." Sun Zhongming snorted coldly. "Do I need you to say that? I also know that some of them can be bribed with money, but such families are in the minority. Most of the families know which side they should stand on." Yi Shao said solemnly, "They know, but the Lu clan might not trust them. Young master, you can only send people to those vassal families that you feel won't betray the Lu clan. Furthermore, you have to let the Lu clan see that we're there. However, we don't have to open our mouths to recruit them. They can just stay for a while and leave. As for those families that you can bribe with money, you can bribe them with money. This way, I can guarantee that the entire Lu clan will fall into chaos without us having to do anything." Sun Zhongming wasn't stupid. When Yi Shao finished speaking, he immediately understood what the core of the plan was. There was only one word to describe it: suspicion. The Lu clan definitely wouldn't trust those vassal families completely, because it was the same for the Sun clan. After the Sun clan's people left, the Lu clan would go to the vassal families one by one to question them. At that time, those who didn't betray them would definitely say that the Sun clan's people came and said nothing. Those who received money and were prepared to betray them would also say the same thing. This way, the truth would be mixed with the lies, and the seeds of suspicion would be planted. The Sun clan wouldn't even need to make a move. They would fall into chaos on their own. The more Sun Zhongming thought about it, the more he felt that it was ingenious. He laughed and patted Yi Shao's shoulder. "Not bad, not bad. I'll go tell father about this right now. Don't worry, you'll have a lot of credit." Yi Shao shook his head and said, "No, young master, this is all thanks to you. You were the one who came up with all these plans. This subordinate is only doing the work." Sun Zhongming's face revealed a faint smile. He looked at Yi Shao and said, "Are you going to give me the credit? Do you know that at this time, you've helped my Sun family with such a big favor? Even if you're not a member of the Sun family, the reward will still not be small." Yi Shao's expression was solemn as he said, "Last time, this subordinate already said that the person this subordinate respects the most is young master. This subordinate knows that within the Sun clan, there are still some people who aren't convinced of young master's abilities. This battle with the Lu clan is a good opportunity for young master to stand out. This credit belongs to young master, which is much more useful than giving it to this subordinate. I'm not pressuring the entire Sun family, but you. As long as you can become the family head in the future, I believe that you won't mistreat me. Although this subordinate does not dare to say that I am far-sighted, at least I am not so short-sighted." The more Sun Zhongming looked at Yi Shao, the more he liked him. As the heir of the Sun family on the surface, he actually had quite a number of subordinates. However, most of them could only be subordinates. They couldn't even do things properly, let alone give him advice and suggestions. And this Yi Shao, other than being slightly weaker, was quick-witted and knew how to scheme. Where else could he find such subordinates? Good. Yi Shao, this young master will not let you down. Whatever you want, this young master will make it come true for you in the future." After encouraging Yi Shao for a while, Sun Zhongming called for people to arrange Yi Zhao's accommodation and gave him a large pile of elixirs. Only then did he leave in satisfaction to report the situation to his father. In the Blood Soul bead, Chu Xiu shook his head. He had overestimated this Sun Zhongming. Although the other party's strength and talent were not bad, when it came to doing things, he had great ambitions but little talent. In the past, on the Longhu list, not to mention monstrous talents like Zhang Qingzhen and Zhong Xian, even people like Xia Xiaolu and Yan Fian had no opponents in their respective sections. They didn't have to worry about competing with others in their sections. But this Sun Zhongming actually didn't even manage his own affairs after so many years. He was simply trash. After Sun Zhongming reported the plan, it immediately received the attention of the current Sun family head, who was also Sun Zhongming's father, Sun Qifang. At present, the Sun family and the Lu family had not directly fought each other. Both sides only had small-scale conflicts. However, the battle between the vassal family heads had already seen blood, and the Sun family was at a disadvantage. Now that Sun Zhongming presented such a plan, it could be said that it solved the Sun family's urgent situation. This immediately made the Sun family overjoyed, and they immediately acted according to Sun Zhongming's plan. As a result, in less than a month, the Lu family became suspicious of their vassal families. After repeated inspections and conflicts, their vassal families were divided. Many of them simply took the initiative to seek refuge with the Sun family, and the situation between the two sides was suddenly reversed. Moreover, after Chu Xiu came to the Sun family, he gave the Sun family many ideas, and all of them were strategies to destroy the family. To put it bluntly, in Chu Xiu's opinion, the Sun family of River East and the Lu family of Gao Ping were a bit too useless. It was not that their strength was useless, but that the Sun family of River East and the Lu family of Gao Ping had been living too comfortably these years. These two clans were in the middle of the 9 great clans. The Ying family of Shangshui stood at the peak, and their strength was so strong that they didn't even dare to think about it. The Dong family, the Luo family, and the other families were too weak to pose a threat to them. As a result, the Sun family and the Lu family had not formally fallen out with anyone for a long time. Therefore, in Chu Xiu's opinion, this method was a bit too gentle, and also a bit too inflexible. Therefore, after Chu Xiu came to the Sun family of River East, he told Yi Xiao many of the despicable methods of the Sun family, so that Sun Zhongming could tell the Sun family, and then use it against the Lu family. For example, cutting off the trade routes around the Lu family, so that some of the resources and materials that the Lu family needed would be greatly reduced. Otherwise, he would send people to provoke the forces that had a grudge against the Lu family, and have them cause trouble behind the Lu family. Chu Xiu even gave Sun Zhongming ideas, asking him to use force or enticement to gather more than half of the bandits in eastern Qi around the Lu family, causing the entire Gao Ping prefecture to be in a mess. In the vast Gao Ping prefecture, there were actually more than 10 forces that couldn't stand the fight between the two families, and had no choice but to move away. This indirectly caused the Lu family of Gao Ping prefecture to suffer losses. After all, these forces could be around the Gao Ping Lu family, either the other party was a vassal family of the Gao Ping Lu family, or they also chose to surrender to the Gao Ping Lu family. Although these methods were not enough to hurt the Gao Ping Lu family, they caused constant trouble for the Gao Ping Lu family. Previously, when the Sun family and the Lu family fought, the Lu family actually had a slight advantage. After all, the Sun family had just lost 2 real pellet state martial artists. As a result, the offensive and defensive relationship between the two sides had changed. Although Chu Xiu asked Yi Xiao to give all these credits to Sun Zhongming was not an idiot. He would do something like the father and son of the Yi family. Sun Zhongming directly brought Yi Xiao with him all the time as his first confidant. He appreciated Yi Xiao very much, and he almost became sworn brothers with him. However, Chu Xiu was still a little dissatisfied. The Sun family and the Lu family were simply cowards. Since they came out of the illusionary realm 6, the two sides had been in direct conflict for more than half a year. In the end, they still didn't want to really fight, and there was no result. It was really too slow. Chu Xiu was now already thinking, do I need to add more fuel to the fire for both sides? At this moment, Sun Zhongming was preparing to take Chu Xiu to Nanliang city of eastern Qi. Sun Zhongming now regarded Yi Xiao as his confidant, so he had told him everything and asked him to help him consult. This time, Sun Zhongming went to Nanliang city to buy intelligence from the wind-sweeping building, to buy intelligence about the Lu family. Now that the two sides were at loggerheads, ordinary anemophilia would definitely not dare to sell the intelligence to the Sun family, so the Sun family could only go to the wind-sweeping building to buy it. As for why the Sun family did this, the reason was very simple. Now the Sun family was still struggling whether to fight or not. The Sun family had been used to keeping a low profile and forbearance over the years. It was impossible for them to act decisively. However, they kept having the feeling that things were going too smoothly, and the Sun family had inexplicably gained the upper hand. If it were any other aristocratic family, they would definitely take this opportunity to defeat their opponent in one go. However, the Sun family was different. After gaining the upper hand, they still felt a little uneasy. Hence, they wanted to obtain detailed information about the Lu family and analyze whether they should take action or not. After they arrived at Nanliang city, Sun Zhongming brought Yi Xiao along to the wind-sweeping building, but he never expected that he would be given the cold shoulder. The anemophilia from the wind-sweeping building were extremely sly. Even though they'd been paying attention to the battle between the Lu and Sun family at all times, they didn't intend to interfere. To the wind-sweeping building, all they had to do was be a witness, and they wouldn't take sides at such a critical moment. Even if the Sun family didn't intend to make a move against the Lu family immediately, and they only wanted to confirm the strength of both sides, it still wouldn't do. Sun Zhongming couldn't succeed no matter how he tried, and he could only return to the inn resentfully. He intended to think about if there was any other way. After nightfall, Yi Xiao sat cross-legged on the bed in the inn and continued cultivating. He knew that strength wasn't easy to come by, and even if he had a ready-made cultivation technique, he still couldn't avoid cultivating bitterly. After following Sun Zhongming, he didn't lack any medicinal pills, so he would cultivate bitterly whenever he had the time. Now, he had already advanced to the inner supreme realm, and it could be said to be godly speed. At this moment, the window of the inn seemed to have been eroded by the wind, and it mysteriously turned into powder. A woman wrapped in black had appeared outside the window, and the long saber in her hand flickered with a cold light. In the next moment, she was already before Yi Xiao. The difference in strength between the two parties was too great, and by the time Yi Xiao reacted, he could already feel the cold light on the edge of the saber. Just as various thoughts flashed through Yi Xiao's mind, and he was waiting for death unwillingly, Chu Xiu suddenly shouted in his mind, "Call out to Mu Zi." Yi Xiao couldn't be bothered about anything else, and he subconsciously shouted, "Mu Zi." The woman in black's body shook, and the saber that was already close to Yi Xiao's neck was retracted. Chapter 850. The blade was only a few centimeters away from Yi Xiao's neck. This was the first time he felt what death was like. At this time, the woman in black asked with a trembling voice, "Who are you? How do you know my name?" She had used this name a long time ago. Only a few people in the Blue Dragon Society knew about it. At least, this person in front of him definitely didn't know. Yi Xiao's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He didn't know what to say at this moment. This name was told by that mysterious senior, so how could he know what was going on? At this time, Chu Xiu's voice rang in Yi Xiao's ears, "Give her the blood soul bead." Yi Xiao immediately took out the blood soul bead and handed it to Mu Zi. Mu Zi hesitantly took it, and in the next moment, her mental force was pulled into the blood soul bead. Mu Zi vigilantly held the willow curved eyebrow saber in front of her, but when she saw Chu Xiu inside, her eyes immediately turned red. "Young Master Chu, I knew it. You won't die, I knew it. Mu Zi's expression was emotional. Her expression seemed to be crying and laughing at the same time. She couldn't even control her emotions. Chu Xiu didn't expect this girl to care about him so much. In fact, Chu Xiu didn't know that after learning of his death, Mu Zi really wanted to secretly poison Bu Tiannan to avenge him. She wasn't strong enough, so she could only do this little for Chu Xiu. To Chu Xiu, Mu Zi was just a girl he saved and enlightened when he was young. Even after that incident, Chu Xiu didn't care about Mu Zi's life or death. Although in the eyes of outsiders, Chu Xiu's behavior at that time could be said to be extremely cold, that was Chu Xiu's personality. If I find you pleasing to the eye, I can spend some time to enlighten you, but if you really want to die, I won't bother. However, to Mu Zi, Chu Xiu's position was completely different. He was the person who gave her a second life. When the Mu family was exterminated, the only thing that kept Mu Zi alive was revenge. Later on, Chu Xiu helped her take revenge and said a few words when she was about to die, allowing her to let go of death and obtain a new life. Chu Xiu's position in her heart was indescribable. It could even be said that Chu Xiu's position was even more important than her adoptive father, the Blue Dragon Society's second dragon head, Wuxia Xianxia, who took care of her and guided her to where she was now. Lu Jianghu stood at the side with a gloomy expression. This girl treated him like he was invisible from the moment she came in. Lu Jianghu couldn't help but say, I say, Chu Xiu brat, you really have a lot of luck with women. That girl from the Yin Demon sect and that girl from the Luo family, tell me in detail, how many women do you have that I don't know? Shut up. Chu Xiu rebuked Lu Jianghu, then turned his head and said, although I'm not dead, I'm not much better now. As you can see, I can only stay here temporarily in the blood soul bead and rely on that brat outside to move around. Mu Zi immediately said, it's alright, young Master Chu. I will immediately take the blood soul bead to my adoptive father. No matter what price I have to pay, I will help you reconstruct your body. Chu Xiu waved his hand and said, no need, I naturally have a way to reconstruct my body. But why are you here? I remember that you were exiled to the northern Yen side by Bu Tiannan, right? Also, why did you kill Yi Shao? The last time Chu Xiu saw Mu Zi was exiled to the northern Yen side from the Blue Dragon Society because of the conflict between his adoptive father, Wuxia Xianxia. Why did she come back now? Mu Zi smiled bitterly and said, it's a bit complicated, and it's related to you, young Master Chu. Related to me? Mu Zi nodded and said, when my adoptive father found out that young Master Chu was in trouble, Bu Tiannan hit you when you were down. He quarreled with Bu Tiannan and thought that it was stupid to make enemies with the Immortal clan because of a moment of anger and personal grudges. But not only did Bu Tiannan not listen to him, he even angrily said that my adoptive father had no right to control his actions. In addition, that despicable Duan Tian Lang added fuel to the fire, so my adoptive father was directly stripped of his power by the Great Dragon Head and sent to the Blue Dragon Society headquarters to reflect on his actions. When my adoptive father was in trouble, I wanted to come back to take a look. Maybe Bu Tiannan thought that I, a woman, couldn't cause any trouble, so he called me back to Eastern Qi. As for killing Yi Shao, I accepted the task. After all, I am still in the Blue Dragon Society, and I can't refuse all the tasks given to me by my superiors. Chu Xiu nodded in understanding and asked, do you know who asked you to kill Yi Shao? It's Lu Guangling from the Lu clan of Gao Ping. Recently, the Lu clan of Gao Ping has suffered quite a bit, so they wanted to ask the Blue Dragon Society to kill some people from the Sun clan to regain some face. It seems that the Lu clan doesn't want to completely fall out with the Sun clan, so the Lu clan's targets are those who aren't directly related to the Sun clan. This Yi Shao is Sun Zhongming's trusted aide, and it seems that he's very valued, so he naturally became the target. The Blue Dragon Society indeed had a rule that they couldn't reveal the employer's information. But for the current Mu Zi, at least in front of Chu Xiu, this rule was as good as non-existent. After pondering for a while, Chu Xiu asked Mu Zi, "So, Lu Guangling is also in Nanliang City now?" Mu Zi nodded and said, "He said he wanted to see the scene when Sun Zhongming's trusted aide was killed, so he specially came to Nanliang City." Chu Xiu pondered and said, "How about this, you can't kill Yi Shao. He's still very useful to me. You can just ignore the Lu clan for now. I want to ask you a question now. You know about the grudge between me and Butian-nan. What's your adoptive father, Duanmu Qianshan's attitude?" In the future, Chu Xiu wanted to find those who hit him when he was down to settle the score, but the Blue Dragon Society wasn't so easy to deal with. Not to mention Butian-nan, as the strongest of the four spirits, the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society were all over the world for many years. With all 36 branches gathered, their might was extremely shocking. Therefore, Chu Xiu really wanted to know what the Blue Dragon Society's attitude towards Butian-nan was. Mu Zi said in a deep voice, "Adoptive father has always been loyal to the Blue Dragon Society, not to Butian-nan alone. Adoptive father even had the chance to fight for the position of the chief dragon, but he gave it up because Butian-nan was more talented in martial arts. But now, adoptive father regrets it, not because he didn't get the position of the chief dragon, but because he trusted the wrong person. If Butian-nan continues to act so crazily, sooner or later, the entire Blue Dragon Society will be dragged into the pit." Mu Zi could vaguely guess what Chu Xiu meant, so she didn't wait for Chu Xiu to continue asking and directly said, "Young Master Chu, if you want to kill Butian-nan, not only will adoptive father not stop you, he will even join hands with you. Butian-nan's existence has already endangered the future of the entire Blue Dragon Society. As long as you don't vent your anger on the Blue Dragon Society and only kill Butian-nan, adoptive father won't have any objections." Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said, "Oh? Join hands? Isn't your adoptive father already imprisoned by Butian-nan? How can we join hands?" Mu Zi said, "After all, adoptive father is the second dragon head of the Blue Dragon Society. He has been in the Blue Dragon Society longer than Butian-nan, and all the big and small matters are handled by adoptive father. Therefore, after so many years, adoptive father's prestige is higher than Butian-nan's. Right now, adoptive father is imprisoned by Butian-nan without any resistance, but he is only not allowed to leave the Blue Dragon Society. He can still see other people. In the entire Blue Dragon Society, half of the Blue Dragon heads are on adoptive father's side. Among the 36 Big Dipper divisions, adoptive father can completely control half of them. Among the remaining half, only a few are completely loyal to Butian-nan. The attitude of the rest is unclear." After hearing this, Chu Xiu also shook his head slightly. He didn't expect that Duanmu Qianshan, the second dragon head, would have such great power. To be honest, if he was Butian-nan, he definitely wouldn't tolerate such a subordinate around. However, the difference was that if the other party didn't show any signs of rebellion, Chu Xiu would only think of ways to make himself stronger. On the other hand, Butian-nan would only violently seize power or even kill people. In this way, it was very likely that the other party would retaliate. Chu Xiu thought for a moment and said, "Go back to the headquarters of the Blue Dragon Society first and ask your adoptive father if he is willing to join hands with me. Give me accurate information. Of course, you need to hide my current situation for the time being." Mu Zi didn't even think before directly agreeing, being incomparably straightforward. After saying that, Chu Xiu was afraid that the other Sun family members would hear the commotion, so he asked Mu Zi to leave for the time being. However, before leaving, Mu Zi also gave Chu Xiu a password and a token. It allowed him to command the Assassins branch of the Blue Dragon Society that was around the Sun family. At present, the people in charge of the Assassins branch were Duanmu Qianshan's trusted subordinates, Han Krai and Song Shao. These two were one of the four great assassins of the Blue Dragon Society and were absolutely reliable people. If Chu Xiu needed them, he could use these 2 items to command the assassin's branch at any time. After leaving these things behind, Mu Zi returned the Blood Soul Pearl to Yi Xiao and left directly. Yi Xiao was actually quite curious. This senior of his seemed to know quite a lot of people in the pugilistic world, and they were all women. He didn't dare to think too much. Just now, Mu Zi's blade really made him feel like he was about to die. That kind of feeling was something that he didn't want to experience in his life. This also made him realize that his cultivation was still too far away. In the Blood Soul Pearl, Lu Jiang he looked at Chu Xiu with a surprised expression and said, "You trust that little girl so much? What if she lied to you and turned around to tell Butian-nan about your situation? Aren't you afraid that Butian-nan would come over right now and drag you out of the Blood Soul Pearl?" Chu Xiu said indifferently, "I trust her, but I trust myself even more. When she tells these things to Duanmu Qianshan and comes back to pass the message, I reckon that my body would have already been successfully reconstructed. At that time, even if I have to face Butian-nan, I would still dare to fight him." Lu Jiang he looked at Chu Xiu with a surprised expression. He didn't know what Chu Xiu was planning to do. This kid seemed to be preparing to play a big game. However, after the body was reconstructed, Chu Xiu could at most recover to his peak. If his weapon was broken, where would he get the courage to face Butian-nan? Chapter 851. When Mu Zi came at night, her movements were very light, and her presence was concealed to the extreme. In addition, during this period of time, Mu Zi had already stepped into the unity of heaven and man realm. With the strength of Sun Zhongming and the others, they did not discover her. It was only after dawn that Sun Zhongming and the others checked out and left that the innkeeper discovered that one of the windows in the guest room was gone. However, the shopkeeper did not dare to say too much. After all, that person was from the Sun family of River East, and he was generous enough. The money he gave was enough to repair 100 windows. Sun Zhongming was unwilling to give up, so he went to the wind-sweeping tower to try again, but he still did not succeed. Yi Xiao, who was at the side, said, "Young master, wind-sweeping pavilion's attitude is too stubborn. I'm afraid that they won't be able to resolve this issue in a short time. Why don't we find a place to eat and rest for a while before we come up with a plan?" Even though Wind-Sweeping Tower was the best in the field of anemophilia, it did not mean that there were no other anemophilia forces in the game. "I heard Southbridge City's Cool Breeze Drunken Moon Inn isn't bad. Why don't we go there and have a try?" During this period of time, Sun Zhongming relied on Yi Zhao's suggestions to successfully stabilize his position in the Sun family. The other disciples of the Sun family didn't even have the qualifications to compete with him. Even in the entire Sun family, because Sun Zhongming's suggestions had been successful time and time again, the weight of his words had almost caught up to his father, Sun Qifang. Of course, the real decision-makers were the Sun family's patriarch and Sun Qifang. Just like how the Sun family's patriarch and Sun Qifang valued Sun Zhongming also valued Yi Zhao's suggestion. Hearing Yi Zhao's words, he nodded and said, "All right, let's go eat first." At this time, in the private room of the Breeze Drunken Moon restaurant, Lu Guangling of the Lu family glared at his subordinate in anger. "What did you say? Those guys from the Blue Dragon Society are stalling again? What kind of bullsh** T number 1 assassin organization is this? Why are they so slow in killing someone? I can send my own men to kill him." The subordinate lowered his head and said, "The people of the Blue Dragon Society said that killing is their business, and we don't need to interfere. It's our fault for not telling them the time beforehand, so they will only make a move when they have absolute confidence." Lu Guangling was so angry that he smashed his cup. However, he didn't dare to go to the Blue Dragon Society to demand an explanation. There were so many major powers in the underworld, but only a handful could afford to offend the Blue Dragon Society. Lu Guangling clearly didn't have the guts to do so. At that moment, Lu Guangling heard someone coming up the stairs. The voice was extremely familiar. He pushed the door open and saw Sun Zhongming coming up the stairs. Sun Zhongming was shocked to see Lu Guangling. "Why are you here?" Lu Guangling laughed coldly. "If you're here, why can't I be here? Can the forces of your River East Sun clan extend to Southbridge City?" Sun Zhongming snorted coldly. "Lu Guangling, you won't be able to be arrogant for much longer. Under the attacks of my Sun clan, your Lu clan has been retreating step by step. If you don't admit defeat now, you'll regret it if we really fight." Lu Guangling's face darkened at the mention of this. Firstly, it was because the Lu family was indeed at a disadvantage. Secondly, it was because Sun Zhongming was in the limelight. Now, everyone knew that the Sun clan's sinister ideas came from Sun Zhongming. It didn't matter if they were sinister or not, as long as they were effective. Therefore, all the aristocratic families looked up to Sun Zhongming, and Lu Guangling was naturally inferior. However, a smile appeared on Lu Guangling's face at this moment. "Whether you regret it or not, we'll talk about it later. But I think you'll regret it now. Don't you have a lover in Great Liang City's heavenly fragrance brothel? But prostitutes are heartless, and entertainers are heartless. Of course they'll follow whoever has the money. Your young master son has been scheming against my Lu clan recently, so he definitely doesn't have the time to take care of a woman. Don't worry, I'll help you take care of her. I've already bought that woman to the Lu clan, and she's been serving me on my bed for many days now." "You don't say, she's not bad at all." Sun Zhongming immediately exploded when he heard this. Although she was the top hostess of Heavenly Fragrance Brothel, she was just a prostitute. How could he, young master son, fall in love with her? He was just playing around. But Lu Guangling's words made Sun Zhongming feel as if grass had grown on his head. This was an absolute humiliation. No man could tolerate something like this. Sun Zhongming immediately made a move. At this moment, Yi Shao hurriedly pulled on Sun Zhongming and said, "Young master. Young master, please calm down." Although Yi Shao was pulling on Sun Zhongming on the surface, in reality, he had secretly cut open a wound on his chest. Fresh blood continuously flowed into the blood soul pearl. At the same time, an extreme wave of mental energy also surged out of the blood soul pearl and entered Sun Zhongming's body through Yi Shao. In an instant, his anger was triggered to the extreme. With a furious roar, Sun Zhongming's entire body exploded with astral energy. He directly sent Yi Shao flying, and he charged crazily at Lu Guangling. Yi Shao's face was pale as he shouted at the other Sun clan martial artists, "Why didn't you guys stop him just now?" They thought that Yi Shao's pale face was because he had been injured while pulling on Sun Zhongming, so they didn't suspect anything. They only said in an aggrieved tone, "Who would have thought that the young master would be serious? If he wanted to make a move, how could we dare to stop him?" Just as they were speaking, Sun Zhongming had already started fighting with Lu Guangling. The moment they actually started fighting, Lu Guangling's expression instantly changed. Sun Zhongming was fighting with his life on the line. Originally, he thought that Sun Zhongming was just angry. Now, it seemed like he would not stop until he killed him. That woman was just a prostitute. Could it be that Sun Zhongming had really fallen in love with her? If that was the case, it would be the hatred of stealing his wife. It was no wonder he was so crazy now. The two of them fought intensely in the building, almost causing the breeze-drunken Moon Inn to collapse. One of them was ranked 10th on the Longhu leaderboard, while the other was ranked 9th. In reality, the two of them were about the same level of strength. However, when they really started fighting, Lu Guangling's hands and feet were tied and he was at a disadvantage. Being suppressed by Sun Zhongming like this, Lu Guangling was also infuriated. The two spears in his hands pierced toward Sun Zhongming with unparalleled momentum. However, at this moment, Sun Zhongming did something that no one could have imagined. He actually used the strength of his hands to receive Lu Guangling's long spear. Even though the bones in his arms were shattered by the long spear and stellar energy, he did not let go. At the same time, blood gushed out of his mouth. However, under the support of the frost true qi, it condensed into a blood-colored icicle arrow. It shot towards Lu Guangling's chest, directly shattering his protective true qi and piercing into his chest. Lu Guangling's eyes revealed a look of disbelief. He did not believe that Sun Zhongming would actually kill him. He actually dared to kill him. With a loud bang, the corpse fell to the ground. Sun Zhongming dragged his temporarily crippled hands. His eyes finally regained clarity, but there was a look of confusion in them. He actually killed Lu Guangling. In that instant, Sun Zhongming was incomparably furious. That rage was simply uncontrollable. In the end, who would have thought that he would actually kill Lu Guangling? How was he going to explain this to the Lu clan? Their Sun clan was not ready to fight the Lu clan yet. At this time, Yi Xiao led the other martial artists over and commanded, "Stop the other Lu clan members. Do not let a single one of them escape." Hearing Yi Xiao's words, Sun Zhongming finally reacted and hurriedly ordered the others to kill the Lu clan members. However, he still put on a long face and said, "What should I do now? Why is Lu Guangling so weak? He's dead just like that." The elder patriarch is not ready to fight the Lu clan yet. This time, we've really gotten ourselves into big trouble. Yi Xiao said in a low voice, "Young master, don't worry. Our Sun clan is not prepared, and neither is the Lu clan. When you return to the Sun clan, young master, immediately encourage the elder patriarch to fight the Lu clan to the death. Only then can the clan reduce or even not pursue your responsibility." Sun Zhongming thought for a moment and immediately nodded fiercely. At this point, this was the only thing they could do. However, when Sun Zhongming and the others returned to the Sun clan, everything that happened in the restaurant today had already spread throughout the entire Eastern Qi pugilistic world. The heir of the Sun clan of River East, Sun Zhongming, had killed Lu Guangling of the Lu clan in a rage for the sake of a beauty. This was big news, and it was the gossip that the pugilistic world loved to hear the most. It had only been a few days, and there were already countless melodramatic versions of the story. The top prostitute of the heavenly fragrance brothel was even described as a goddess who had descended to the mortal world. When Sun Zhongming and the others returned to the Sun clan, they were immediately called over by the elder patriarch of the Sun clan, Sun Zuchang, Sun Qifang, and other senior members of the Sun clan to question them. Sun Zuchang looked at Sun Zhongming and said coldly, "What exactly happened? The clan has not prepared to fight the Lu clan yet, and you killed him. This time, even if we don't want to fight, we have no choice." Hearing this, Sun Zhongming immediately knelt on the ground and said with his head lowered, "Elder Patriarch, I was rash in this matter. That Lu Guangling was too much of a bully, and I couldn't hold back and killed him. I originally thought that he was one rank higher than me on the Longhu leaderboard, but I didn't expect him to be so useless. Of course, no matter what, this is all my fault, and I am willing to bear all the responsibility. But now, our Sun clan cannot delay any longer, and we have to attack the Lu clan immediately. Our Sun clan is not prepared, and the Lu clan is not prepared either. As the saying goes, the one who strikes first gains the upper hand. It's a good opportunity to destroy the Lu clan in one go." Sun Zhongming's speech was taught to him by Chu Xiu. Otherwise, with Sun Zhongming's character, he would definitely quibble over and over again, which would only arouse Sun Zuchang's disgust. Indeed, after hearing Sun Zhongming's words, Sun Zuchang's anger was greatly reduced. Moreover, it was better for the Sun clan's disciples to kill someone than to be killed. This also proved that the Sun clan's disciples were indeed stronger than the Lu clan's. Therefore, Sun Zuchang could only sigh and said, "Since it has already happened, what's the use of punishing you? When the war with the Lu clan starts, as a disciple of my Sun clan, you will be able to fight bravely to atone for your crimes." Hearing Sun Zuchang say this, Sun Zhongming was instantly overjoyed. At the same time, he also heaved a sigh of relief, knowing that he had passed the test. Disciple will definitely not let elder patriarch down. Chapter 852. Many people knew that there would be a battle between the Sun family and the Lu family. No one would have thought that the Sun family and the Lu family would have a life-and-death battle because of a woman. Moreover, the party that took the initiative to attack was the Sun family of River East, who had always been cautious and patient. Sun Zuchang adopted Sun Zhongming's suggestion and prepared to strike first. Although the Sun family had been patient, they were not idiots. Since they couldn't avoid this battle, why did they have to fight on the Sun family's territory? In the end, it would be the Sun family's property that would be damaged, so it was better to strike first. As Sun Zhongming's confidant, Yi Shao naturally followed the Sun family to attack. In the Blood Soul bead, Lu Jiang he muttered, I don't want to say this, but the descendants of the Sun family's old tortoise are also not very good. Compared to their ancestors, they are also very useless. Even if you have given them so many ideas, I still think that the Sun family's chance of winning is not big. Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and said, it doesn't matter whether it's big or not. Do you think I want to drive the tiger to swallow the wolf? You're wrong. Back in the illusory Six Realms, there was also the Lu family's old ancestor who added insult to injury. So this time, both of them must die. Lu Jianghe's heart moved, but he didn't continue to say anything. He had seen Chu Xiu's plan along the way, and even he felt sorry for the Sun family. First, they got close to Sun Zhongming through Yi Shao, and then through Sun Zhongming, they got in touch with the entire Sun family's upper echelons. Chu Xiu didn't even show his face, but the Sun family had been following Chu Xiu's script. In the end, they wouldn't even know how they died. The Lu family naturally noticed that the Sun family had come with such a big lineup, but there was nothing they could do. The Lu family couldn't be blamed for their slow reaction, but they really didn't expect that the Sun family, who had always been patient and cautious, would dare to kill their heir and openly provoke them. Even the others didn't expect the Sun family to do this. It was as if there was an invisible hand controlling everything, but the problem was that Sun Zuchang was in existence in the true fire spirit refinement realm. Who could affect him? The others didn't understand, and naturally, the Lu family didn't understand either. Therefore, the Lu family was still researching, wondering why the Sun family would take the initiative to provoke them and whether there was a conspiracy. But before they could come to a conclusion, the Sun family had already come knocking on their door. In front of Gao Ping's Lu clan's mansion, the light of Formation Dao shone brightly. Although the Lu family was caught off guard, they were not completely defenseless. The ancestor of the Lu clan held a dark blue spear that emitted a gloomy, cold aura. He looked at Sun Zuchang and said coldly, I've miscalculated this time. I didn't expect your Sun clan to be so ruthless just for a cultivation technique. If I had known this earlier, my Lu clan would have gone all out from the beginning and not given the Sun clan any chance. The ancestor of the Sun clan snorted and said, even if your Lu clan had gone all out from the beginning, you still wouldn't have had a chance. Although Sun Zuchang sounded tough, he was actually very bitter in his heart because he didn't want to fight this battle at all. If Chu Xiu hadn't secretly let the Sun clan gain the upper hand, and if Sun Zhongming hadn't killed Lu Guangling, the two sides would have become enemies. Then the result of this matter would have been that both sides would have taken a step back. The Sun clan would have taken out enough conditions to exchange for the Lu clan's half of the cultivation technique, or the Lu clan would have taken out conditions to exchange for the Sun clan's half of the cultivation technique. But now, Lu Guangling had been killed, and there was no turning back. Although this battle was a little strange, they could only fight to the end. Sun Zuchang said in a deep voice, Old man Lu, I'll give you one last chance on account of the fact that our families were once in-laws. Hand over the other half of the cultivation technique, and I can spare your Lu family this once. The ancestor of the Lu clan sneered and said, all right, my grandson died in the hands of your Sun clan. Take Sun Zhongming's life as compensation, and I'll give you the other half of the cultivation technique. Sun Zuchang sighed, but in the next moment, he took a step forward. Icy chi shone around him, and he pointed out with his finger. The chi of heaven and earth began to condense in mid-air, turning into a long icicle sword that was dozens of feet long, and it attacked the ancestor of the Liu clan with terrifying power. The ancestor of the Liu clan also snorted coldly. The long spear in his hand was like a bolt of lightning, directly attracting the power of the 9 heavens. Every time the spear landed, there would be a thunderous explosion. Seeing that the two ancestors had already started fighting, the rest of the disciples of the Sun clan and Liu clan also began to attack under the command of their respective elders. The formation around the Liu clan and Sun clan shone brightly. Not only had the Liu clan prepared a formation, but even the Sun clan had prepared some auxiliary formations to facilitate the attack. Among the 9 great families, although the strength of the Sun clan and the Liu clan was not the strongest, they were definitely not weak. At present, the two sides were engaged in a battle of annihilation. Tens of thousands of warriors were involved in the battle, and the power was simply terrifying. Although it could not be compared to the battle between the righteous and demonic paths in the moon-worshipping cult, it was still intense enough. Such an intense battle was naturally observed by the wind-sweeping tower. However, the battle before them was too intense. Moreover, both sides' matrices overlapped. The layers of matrices shone brightly, not only blocking everyone's vision, but also their perception. This made the people from Wind-Sweeping Tower feel a little depressed. Qi Yuanli led a group of people from Wind-Sweeping Tower to observe the situation halfway up the mountain. Seeing this, he directly took out a recliner from the secret space box and lay there comfortably, waiting for the fierce battle to end. Seeing Qi Yuanli's expression, the surrounding warriors from Wind-Sweeping Tower were slightly speechless. This was a fierce battle between 2 of the 9 great families. Deputy Tower Master, can you be more serious? In fact, Qi Yuanli was quite serious at this moment because he had been thinking about why the battle between these 2 families was so inexplicable. Wind-Sweeping Tower's analysis of intelligence could be said to be quite accurate. Previously, according to their predictions, these 2 forces would definitely not fight each other. But now, both sides were really fighting, and it seemed like they would not stop until one side was dead. Strange, really strange. At this time, inside the formation, the people of the Sun clan and the Liu clan had already begun to fight. Sun Zhongming, Yi Xiao, and a few other followers stood in the corner and did not make a move. Although Sun Zuchang had previously said that he wanted Sun Zhongming to fight bravely and redeem himself, in fact, he was after all the most outstanding disciple of this generation of the Sun clan of River East. If he was killed in this kind of chaotic battle, there would really be no one to blame. Therefore, Sun Zhongming only led his people to watch the battle in the corner and did not directly participate in the battle. However, at this time, no one noticed that Yi Xiao had placed the blood soul bead on the ground. Suddenly, a strange blood-red color bloomed from the blood soul bead and extended to the ground. In a martial arts battlefield with tens of thousands of people, there were people dying every moment. The pungent smell of blood filled the entire space, but at this time, lines of blood rose from the ground and continuously extracted the blood and qi of the corpses. These lines of blood were extremely thin, and in addition to the fact that everyone was fighting fiercely with blood flowing on the ground, no one noticed this strange situation. Inside the blood soul bead, Lu Jianghu looked at Chu Xiu, who was using the demonic blood technique to extract the blood and qi of the corpses. He finally knew how big Chu Xiu was going this time. Based on Lu Jianghu's character in the past, his physical body had been destroyed many times. However, the so-called body reconstruction was only to create the weakest body, which might not even reach the innate realm. Then, he would continue to kill people and extract blood, step by step, to return to the peak. Generally speaking, as long as one cultivated the demonic blood technique, there was only one way. Otherwise, where could one find a battlefield where tens of thousands of people were fighting fiercely and the strength of the cultivators could not be weak, so that one could take advantage of them? The probability of this happening was almost zero, but now, Chu Xiu had forcibly created such a battlefield, which was simply shocking. This was the blood of tens of thousands of people, and the strength of the cultivators was not weak, ranging from blood condensation innate realm to martial Dao grandmasters. With so much blood, not only could Chu Xiu rebuild his body to the peak, it was even possible for him to reach the next level. The blood-red light on the blood soul bead had condensed to the extreme, and at this moment, a dark light appeared. This light condensed and turned into a pill covered with demon crests. It was Chu Xiu's indestructible demon core. But the strangest thing was that below the indestructible demon core, a stone-like object also condensed, with strange patterns on its surface. Chu Xiu was taken aback. Wasn't this the so-called Heaven Ascension Key that High Heaven sect had mentioned? How could it be in his possession and even integrate into his body? Could it be that when the spirit array shattered, this thing merged with his indestructible demon core? Chu Xiu didn't have time to think so much. The countless blood-red threads on the ground poured into the indestructible demon core, and the scarlet light became even brighter. Such a big movement, even a blind man could see it. Sun Zhongming and the others were suddenly shocked. They turned their heads and looked at the evil thing wrapped in a mass of blood-red threads in amazement. At this time, Yi Xiao was standing next to the mass of blood-red threads, and although there was surprise in his eyes, he still remained calm. Sun Zhongming looked at Yi Xiao in amazement and asked, "What is this thing?" Yi Xiao didn't speak and just stared at the mass of blood-red threads. To be honest, he was also very curious about who this mysterious senior was. Inside the blood soul bead space, the face of this senior was always covered with a layer of blood mist, making it impossible to see his face clearly. Now, he finally knew the identity of this senior. For people like Sun Zhongming, Yi Xiao had long since had enough patience. At this moment, the outcome was already decided, so of course he didn't bother to play along. Seeing that Yi Xiao didn't answer him, Sun Zhongming couldn't help feeling that something was wrong. Before he could say anything, the mass of blood-red threads twisted and finally turned into a person composed entirely of blood. Although this person's whole body was composed of blood, it was vivid and lifelike, and his eyebrows and eyes were clearly visible. Chu Xiu stretched his head and looked at Sun Zhongming. "What did you say before?" "I, Chu Xiu, am dead, so dead that not even my dregs remain, so you dare to touch my people?" Chapter 853. Sun Zhongming stared at Chu Xiu, who was made of fresh blood, as though he had seen a ghost. In fact, he had indeed seen a ghost. A guy who had been blasted into smithereens in front of everyone had actually appeared before him in such a strange form. If this wasn't a ghost, what else could it be? A dead person would always be more terrifying than a living person. At least, this was the case for Sun Zhongming. Previously, Sun Zhongming had not dared to provoke Chu Xiu. But now, as he looked at Chu Xiu, an extreme sense of fear rose in his heart. Sun Zhongming trembled. Just as he was about to say something, he realized that his body was being sucked towards Chu Xiu uncontrollably. Before he could say a word, he realized that all the blood in his body was boiling and flowing towards Chu Xiu's body. In an instant, Sun Zhongming's entire body had been sucked dry and turned into a dried corpse. The other martial artists who followed Sun Zhongming wanted to escape, but with a wave of Chu Xiu's hand, all their blood was sucked dry and their bodies fell to the ground. Yi Xiao looked at Chu Xiu in front of him and was also so shocked that he could not speak. Although this generation's Longhu leaderboard had almost all been replaced with new people, there were many monsters in the previous generation's Longhu leaderboard. How could someone like Chu Xiu not be recognized? This was especially so for Yi Xiao. Because he was often bullied, the person he respected the most in the previous generation's Longhu leaderboard was not the famous little celestial master, nor was it Zhong Xian, who came from a large sect. Instead, it was Chu Xiu, who came from a lowly devil Dao and was ruthless and decisive. He had never expected that a person who only existed in legends would appear before him in such a way and even teach him martial arts. Yi Xiao was so emotional that he did not know what to say. Chu Xiu pointed behind him and said, "Kid, hide further away later. It won't be fun if you get hurt by accident." Before Yi Xiao could react, Chu Xiu waved his hand and sent Yi Xiao hundreds of meters away. Looking at the scene in front of him, Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes. In an instant, the blood-red glow around him intensified, and countless bloodlines entered his body in a frenzy. Chu Xiu and the others were only at a corner of the battlefield, so Chu Xiu's movements did not attract much attention. However, at this moment, a layer of flames ignited around Chu Xiu. The flames were like gold and silver, causing the qi and blood around Chu Xiu to boil. Chu Xiu's current body was completely made up of fresh blood. Once the layer of flames burned, it caused Chu Xiu's body to shrink rapidly. However, even more blood threads rapidly surged into Chu Xiu's body, replenishing the qi and blood he had consumed. Seeing this, Lu Jianghu was shocked. F***CK. Inner Force True Fire. What are you going to do, kid? The body condensed from fresh blood was also a part of Chu Xiu. At this moment, Chu Xiu felt as if he was in an alchemy furnace. There was an extreme burning pain around him, causing his nerves to be stretched to the extreme. I've said it before. I've wasted more than half a year. Of course, I can't just let it go like this. After the body is reconstructed, I don't want to just return to my previous appearance. I want to improve further. Chu Xiu's words seemed to be squeezed out from the gaps between his teeth. However, at this moment, the power around his body became more and more solid, gradually revealing his physical body. However, within his physical body, there was also a gold and silver inner force true fire burning. It was like forging weapons and forging swords, tempering his body to become even more perfect. True fire body refinement. Lu Jianghu immediately thought of the junior named Qinqing in the past. The path he had taken could be said to be shocking. Now, Chu Xiu was walking the same path as Emperor Qinqing. However, to be more precise, he was gathering all the paths together. He wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to reconstruct a body that could be said to be perfect. Using the eternal demon pill as a guide, he could preserve his own origin and at the same time refine all kinds of power. Then, he would use the demonic blood power to absorb endless blood and qi, refining it into the purest power to reconstruct his physical body. In the end, Chu Xiu even used the inner force true fire to temper his body, just like Qinqing. Because Chu Xiu was reconstructing his body this time, the path that Qinqing had walked for more than 10 years, Chu Xiu could directly go from weak to strong, completing it in one step. No wonder Chu Xiu said that he was going to play it big this time. According to Chu Xiu's plan, he might be able to walk a path that no one had ever walked before and no one would be able to walk after. His body had been tempered to a perfect level by the inner force true fire, but he had yet to experience the true fire spirit refinement realm. Therefore, Chu Xiu's future path was even wider than Qinqing's. Amidst the true fire of internal strength, Chu Xiu was constantly experiencing the torment of being roasted by fire. However, he had to endure it at all times, mobilizing the power of the true fire of internal strength to temper every meridian in his body. After planning for such a long time, provoking 2 of the 9 super clans into a life-and-death battle, using the blood and qi of tens of thousands of people to reconstruct his body, even if Chu Xiu was given another chance, he might not succeed. Therefore, during this period of time, Chu Xiu could not tolerate the slightest mistake. Previously, Chu Xiu already knew that Qinqing had tempered his body with the inner force true fire, so he naturally knew how great the pain was. However, he did not expect that the pain could be so intense. Chu Xiu only needed to endure this moment to be considered a success, but Qinqing had to endure this pain for more than 10 years to finally reach his current realm. It had to be said that in terms of sheer willpower, there was probably no one in the entire Jianghu who could compare to Chen Di. The body that was filled with extreme power was born in the inner force true fire. At the same time, the invincible demon core was circulating wildly in Chu Xiu's body, transforming his qi and blood into extremely pure qi. From the innate stage to the inner invulnerability and outer invulnerability, from the three flowers at one's prominence to the unity of heaven and man. In the end, the invincible demon core blossomed with a dazzling brilliance, directly penetrating the body and merging with the inner force true fire that interweaved with gold and silver all over Chu Xiu's body, turning it into a demonic power that soared into the sky. With a wave of his hand, a black robe had already covered Chu Xiu's body. At this moment, he could be considered to have truly reshaped his body. To be precise, this was not reshaping, but rather Chu Xiu had created a more perfect body for himself. Although there was no glazed golden silk goo, Chu Xiu's current body could be said to be perfect and flawless. It could even be said to have the appearance of a celestial being. Even if Chu Xiu crippled his own martial arts, if he were to cultivate back, his cultivation speed would still be tremendous. Previously, when Chu Xiu did not cause such a huge commotion, the surrounding people did not notice him. After all, at that time, both sides were engaged in a life and death battle. Who would divert their attention to observe other places? But now, the scene of demonic qi soaring into the sky attracted everyone's attention. In an instant, Chu Xiu had already become the focus of everyone present. Raising his head, Chu Xiu took a step forward. Ink-like demonic qi lingered around his body as he brought Chu Xiu a distance of 100 feet with each step. Looking at Sun Zuchang and Lu Clan's ancestor, the corners of Chu Xiu's lips curled into a smile. Both of you, how have you been? I'm here today to collect my debt, to collect my life debt. Sun Zuchang and the Lu family's patriarch looked as though they had seen a ghost. They could not believe that Chu Xiu was still alive. Jingchan Jizang was already dead on that occasion, and not even his dregs were left. Yet, Chu Xiu was still alive. Sun Zuchang and Lu Clan's ancestor were not ignorant and ill-informed Sun Zhongming. They had naturally heard of some secret techniques circulating in the pugilistic world that could allow people to revive after death, but the conditions were extremely harsh. They never expected Chu Xiu to know such a secret technique. Furthermore, he was able to stand in front of them again in such a short period of time. Glancing at Sun Zhongming, who had turned into a dried corpse, Sun Zuchang asked with a trembling voice, "Did you plan all of this behind the scenes?" "Oh. How did you find out about this? You're not so old and muddle-headed after all." Chu Xiu looked at Sun Zuchang and Lu Clan's ancestor and spread his hands. "My principles are very simple. If someone wants to kill me, I'll kill them. Of course, when no one provokes me, I'm still very easy to talk to. You've successfully killed me once, so you can't blame me for bringing harm to your family. After saying so much, there's only one main point, and that is, all of you must die." Sun Zuchang and Lu Clan's ancestor exchanged looks. Without a word, they charged at Chu Xiu at the same time. In the past, in the illusory Six Realms, they had all seen the battle between Chu Xiu and Jingchan Jizang. Their strength was so powerful that it made people tremble. A real pellet state and a real fire spirit refinement state. As a result, the battle between the two of them actually unleashed the power of the heaven and earth mystic realm. This was simply terrifying. Why would he care about enmity now? Why would he care about techniques? If they didn't join forces, then it would really be like what Chu Xiu said. They all had to die. Lu Clan's ancestor's body was shining with lightning. The power of the ninth heaven thunder in mid-air was integrated into his spear. As the spear fell, a huge force was poured into it as if it was going to shatter the mountains and rivers. At the same time, Sun Zuchang sent a punch forward. Extreme power erupted from his aged body as layers of ice true energy stacked on top of each other. Wherever it passed, snowflakes drifted down even though it was midsummer. With the support of the ice true energy, the snowflakes were akin to icicles as they shot towards Chu Xiu in a densely packed manner. Chu Xiu stepped out. It seemed to be a light step, but it made the entire ground burst into a violent tremor. Countless gravel soared into the sky like an earth dragon turning over. Chu Xiu formed the colorless fixed palm print with one hand and directly resisted the spear of Lu clan's ancestor. Even with the power of the ninth heaven thunder in it, the power of the spear was completely destroyed by the colorless fixed palm print. The spear head was directly held in Chu Xiu's hand. With a shake, the Lu clan's divine weapon, meteorite thunder spear, that had been passed down for thousands of years, was directly broken by Chu Xiu. Lu clan's ancestor was also directly blown away by this force. At the same time, Chu Xiu's left fist fell. It was a simple punch, but it contained a powerful fist intent that could break the world. This even gave Sun Zuchang an illusion that he was facing Qinqing Di. With a single punch, the ripples of power between the two of them exploded. Layers of ice crystals shattered and melted under the burning flames of inner force around Chu Xiu. The powerful force completely pulverized the surrounding rocks and soil. Sun Zuchang was also sent flying by this punch, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 854. One move shattered the divine weapon, repelled the Lu family's old ancestor, and seriously injured Sun Zuchang with one punch. Chu Xiu's current strength was simply terrifying. Looking at his hands, Chu Xiu wanted to shamelessly sigh at this moment. I'm really strong. Chu Xiu's internal force didn't improve much compared to before. At the same time, his comprehension of heaven and earth didn't improve much. The only improvement was his understanding of martial arts in the past 6 months. However, the power contained in his body had increased exponentially, to the point that Chu Xiu himself couldn't adapt to it. Now, Chu Xiu finally understood why Xia Xiaolu, as Qinqing Di's personal disciple, didn't completely inherit Qinqing Di's tyrannical fist intent. It was very simple. Only a powerful body tempered by true fire could accommodate this unparalleled fist intent. However, the feeling of mastering extreme power was really good. At this time, in the outside world, the powerful force that Chu Xiu triggered erupted. It was like an earth dragon turning over, and the movement could be felt from more than 10 miles away. Qi Yuanli was so shocked that he couldn't care less about lying there. He looked in the direction of the two sides in surprise. The Sun family and the Lu family were actually playing such a big game. What exactly did they use? Were they preparing to perish together? Qi Yuanli wanted to send someone to take a look, but in this situation, the strength of the people he sent was too weak, and it was easy for them to be accidentally injured. However, if the strength of the people he sent was too strong, it was easy to cause misunderstandings. So Qi Yuanli scratched his head and thought of a way. But at this moment, a more violent fluctuation came from the formation. There was even an extreme evil blood aura blooming, causing Qi Yuanli to feel a chill all over his body. At this time, inside the formation, Chu Xiu laughed. He formed a seal with his hands, and countless blood shadows flew out behind him, pouncing on the martial artists of the Sun family and Lu family below. As soon as the blood shadow technique was used, the entire battlefield was like a meat grinder. Anyone who touched it would die without a doubt. Even a martial Dao Grand Master could not resist a blood shadow. At most, they could entangle it for a while. The people from the Sun and Lu families, who were fighting to the death just now, were now working together to resist the blood shadows, but it was all in vain. Seeing his own disciple being slaughtered by Chu Xiu, the eyes of the patriarch of the Lu family turned red instantly. Chu Xiu, I will fight it out with you. As soon as he finished speaking, the Lu family's ancestor bit off a portion of his index finger. Blood splattered as he drew a lightning rune in the air. Different from the thunder talisman of Dragon Tiger Mountain, the thunder talisman drawn by the ancestor of the Lu clan was a pictographic talisman inscribed in ancient times when the human race first tried to record wind, rain, thunder, and lightning with words. It had a trace of connection with heaven and earth. The talisman only consisted of a few simple strokes, but it outlined the most original power of thunder in the world. As the talisman was completed, the sky was instantly filled with lightning sparks. Thunder roared in the air, and thunder rumbled. The patriarch of the Lu clan grabbed with one hand. 4 of his fingers clenched tightly in the void, and a lightning dragon shining with boundless thunderbolts was forcibly caught in his hand. It turned into a lightning dragon spear and pierced towards Chu Xiu with the unparalleled momentum of breaking armies. Controlling the power of heaven and earth with the power of a human, the Lu family's ancestor was suffering the backfire of thunder every second. Needless to say, he was also a ruthless person. He even cultivated such a forbidden secret technique. It was obvious that he really hated Chu Xiu to the extreme. As the greenish-purple lightning spear approached, Chu Xiu used his palm as a saber and slashed forward. The extremely pure demonic qi spread. Compared to the explosive and overbearing lightning dragon spear, the saber intent of Chu Xiu's saber even felt a little fleeting. However, it was this saber that seemed to have frozen the space. Everywhere it passed, the space was forcibly cut in half like a painting. The spear that was completely formed from the power of thunder was actually cut in half by this strange saber. Misty red dust slash. The heavenly demon dance was already useless. Although Chu Xiu used his palm as a saber and successfully used the misty red dust slash, when his palm collided with the power of thunder, he had to bear the brunt of the force. Therefore, Chu Xiu's right hand began to continuously explode in the thunder. However, the strange thing was that sometimes, even if the bones in Chu Xiu's hand exploded, it would immediately recover after a flash of blood. This was not the power of the demonic blood technique, but the true power of the eternal demon pill. Chu Xiu had successfully cultivated the eternal demon pill a long time ago. However, the truth was that Chu Xiu had never understood the function of the eternal demon pill. Until his body was reconstructed, Chu Xiu had thought that the eternal demon pill was only equivalent to strengthening the demonic blood technique and that it could protect his true spirit from being destroyed at crucial moments. However, if the eternal demon pill was really that simple, then Chu Xiu had underestimated Dugu way too much. Eternal and indestructible. Without experiencing true annihilation, how could one know what true indestructibility was? Only when one was at the juncture between annihilation and indestructibility could one comprehend the true meaning of the eternal demon pill and the true way to use it. Just like now, as long as Chu Xiu had enough power, he would be an indestructible existence as long as he stood here. On the entire battlefield, the power of blood and qi produced by tens of thousands of people was nourishment for Chu Xiu, the source of Chu Xiu's indestructibility. Under the red dust slash, even if the Lu family's ancestor used all his strength and his trump card, it was still useless in the face of absolute power. At this moment, the Lu family's ancestor glanced over at Sun Zuchang. At such a crucial moment, Sun Zuchang had actually escaped first and was about to escape the formation. The Lu family's people were about to die, but the Sun family still had a chance of survival. After all, he couldn't bring everyone from the Sun family to attack the Lu family. As long as he could escape and tell others that Chu Xiu was still alive, the Blue Dragon Society, Subodhi Zen Monastery, and even the Elysium would definitely make a move. Therefore, at such a crucial moment, Sun Zuchang abandoned the Lu family's ancestor without hesitation and escaped first. Where there's life, there's hope. Why did he have to risk his life? Even if someone risked their life, one person was enough. Don't worry, I'll send him to accompany you later. As soon as Chu Xiu finished speaking, he had already arrived in front of the Lu family's ancestor. He punched the Lu family's ancestor's head, causing it to explode. The headless corpse of the Lu family's ancestor slid down. Chu Xiu didn't even look at it. His body turned into a bloody light and he stomped on the ground with both feet. Immediately, there was an explosive sound. Chu Xiu's stomp created a huge pit that was dozens of feet wide. The power that could be unleashed purely from one's physical body was extremely shocking. Chen Qingdi had already proven all of this. Now, Chu Xiu was the same. This stomp exerted the power of his physical body to the extreme. Like a cannonball, Chu Xiu arrived behind the Sun family's ancestor in the blink of an eye. He formed a seal with his hand and a demonic bow appeared in Chu Xiu's hand. With one hand holding the bow and the other holding the bowstring, a demonic arrow with the power of nirvanic destruction condensed in Chu Xiu's hand. With a loud bang, it was shot straight at the Sun family's ancestor's back. Triple City Destroying Arrow. The Sun family's old ancestor felt the aura coming from behind him. A mysterious aura locked onto his surroundings, making it impossible for him to hide or evade. This arrow forced the Sun family's ancestor to turn around. He formed a fist seal and smashed it down crazily. In an instant, hundreds and thousands of seals were smashed down. A biting cold air condensed in front of him. The scene was like an iceberg lying in front of him. But under the power of the Triple City Destruction Arrow, everything was collapsing. The Black Arrow, the power of destruction, corroded everything. In the end, even one of Sun Zuchang's arms was completely eroded by the power of nirvanic destruction of the Triple City Destroying Arrow and began to collapse. Sun Zuchang gritted his teeth. His left hand's true qi turned into a blade and directly cut off his right arm. Chu Xiu had a mocking smile on his face. Are you still thinking that after you return to the Sun family, you can still protect the remaining disciples of the Sun family and leave a seed for the Sun family? Let me tell you a very unfortunate piece of news. You're wrong. Very wrong. Kill and destroy the heart. Cut the weeds and remove the roots. I've destroyed the Lu family and killed you. How could I leave the Sun family's people alive? Perhaps the disciples of the Sun family are already ahead of you. Just in time, I'll send you, the ancestor, to accompany them. Chu Xiu was used to doing things to the extreme, to the point of leaving no room for maneuver. The day before Sun Zuchang came to attack the Lu family, Chu Xiu had asked Yi Shao to inform Luo Feiheng and Mu Zi's Heavenly Assassins branch and get them to help eliminate the Sun family. A portion of the people in Luo Feiheng's 9 branches were her most trusted subordinates. They were definitely the kind that could keep secrets. The Heavenly Assassins branch that Mu Zi was in was directly under her foster father, and she would definitely listen to everything that she said. If the two of them worked together, it wouldn't be difficult to eliminate the Sun family silently. However, when Sun Zuchang heard this, his eyes turned red. I'll fight it out with you. Sun Zuchang spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, which turned into a blood mist that drifted away and fused with the countless icicles in the air. In an instant, it was like a sky full of blood rain that came crashing down on Chu Xiu. However, the blood rain brought with it a boundless cold blade, as though it wanted to slice Chu Xiu into 1,000 pieces. However, Chu Xiu's body was burning with the blazing flames of his inner force. The moment the blood mist came into contact with Chu Xiu's body, it was completely melted by him. Step by step, he walked in front of Sun Zuchang. That powerful pressure made Sun Zuchang feel the fear of death. However, this fear also stimulated his ferocious nature. Just as Sun Zuchang was about to make his move, a blood-red shadow holding a sword appeared behind him without him noticing. The sword fell gracefully, and the blood-red sword directly broke through Sun Zuchang's protective true qi, piercing right through him. Sun Zuchang looked at Chu Xiu in disbelief. He wanted to turn his head back, but he didn't have the chance to do so. His vitality dissipated, and his body collapsed to the ground. Chapter 855. Outside the battleground of the Lu clan, the radiance of the matrix was still flowing, but the surroundings were quiet, so quiet that it made people panic. Qi Yuanli led his men to approach the battleground carefully. It was not that he was afraid, but the scene before him was too strange. It was clearly a battle between two parties, but there was a different kind of fluctuation coming from it. In the end, even the slightest aura disappeared. Qi Yuanli had never seen such a strange thing. Even if both parties perished together, there should be at least one or two left, right? It was impossible that not even one was left alive. Qi Yuanli hesitated for a long time before approaching the battleground with his men, wanting to see what was going on. After entering the matrix, the expressions of all the warriors from wind-sweeping tower suddenly changed. As far as the eye could see, everything was blood-red. Corpses were everywhere. The entire area covered by the matrix was completely soaked in blood. Countless corpses were lying on the ground, and one could clearly see that some of the corpses had been completely sucked dry, like dried corpses. In the end, they even found the corpses of the Sun clan and the Lu clan's patriarch. One was killed by a sword through the heart, and the other had his head smashed by a punch. If not for the relics on his body, wind-sweeping tower wouldn't even be able to recognize him. Qi Yuanli and his men looked at each other. There was only one thought in their minds: something big had happened. The Sun family and the Lu family had a huge battle, but in the end, both sides were completely wiped out. Moreover, the ancestors of both sides were definitely not killed by each other. Could there be a third party involved? Who was it that could kill two true fire spirit refinement realm cultivators? Such a big matter was no longer something that Qi Yuanli could intervene in. He immediately went back to inform the leader of Wind Sweeping Tower, Fang Fifan, and also informed the Xianxia clan. In theory, the Xianxia clan was the leader of the 9 super clans, but in reality, the Xianxia clan rarely meddled in other people's affairs. The fight between the 9 super clans had nothing to do with them, as long as the 9 super clans did not affect the Xianxia clan. As the saying went, the 9 super clans were like water, and the Xianxia clan was like iron. The Xianxia clan could not be bothered with what happened to the others. However, the commotion this time was so huge that the Xianxia clan sent Ing Sanshu over to investigate what was going on. On the morning of the third day, Ing Sanshu brought Ing Bailu to the battlefield of the Lu clan. As the future successor of the Xianxia clan, Ing Bailu would have to deal with this mess sooner or later. It would be good for him to familiarize himself with it in advance. Fang Fifan didn't expect that the Ing clan of Xianxia would send the number 1 on the wind cloud list. He hurriedly walked over and cupped his hands, so it's third master Ing who has come in person. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you. Ing Sanshu waved his hand and said, there's no need to be so polite. Tell me, what's the situation? After Fang Fifan told Ing Sanshu everything that happened that day, Ing Sanshu said indifferently, in that case, Qi Yuanli didn't see anyone leaving the array formation? Qi Yuanli smiled bitterly. My strength is weak. Someone might have left, but I didn't discover it. Ing Sanshu said indifferently, all right then. Bring me to see the corpse. Everyone stepped into the array formation. At this time, the ground was still littered with corpses. In order to protect the scene, Wind Sweeping Tower didn't clear away the corpses. They only set up a large-scale ice array in the periphery to prevent the corpses from rotting. Fang Fifan said, the people of Wind Sweeping Tower have checked all the corpses. Some of them died in the battle between the Sun clan and the Lu clan, but there were also corpses that died from various kinds of injuries. Some died with sabers, some with swords, and some were directly killed by a powerful force. In any case, there were all kinds of strange things. Most importantly, a large number of the corpses had their qi and blood completely sucked dry. I suspect that it was some kind of evil being or some big shot from the demonic path who had been in closed-door training for a long time that caused such an outcome. Ing Sanshu didn't answer. He just glanced at the corpses of the Lu clan and Sun clan's ancestor. After a while, he said, I can't tell who did it, but I have a feeling that the punch that destroyed the Lu clan's ancestor had the feeling of Qianqing Di. Fang Fifan was stunned. Qianqing Di? But when the accident happened, Qianqing Di was still in West Chu. Ing Sanshu just said indifferently, I only said it had the feeling of Qianqing Di, but I didn't say it was Qianqing Di. Also, that sword strike on the Sun clan's ancestor's body, I even felt the feeling of Sword King City. But that sword strike should be a sneak attack, and there was a faint bloody aura on it. If the sword was used head-on, it might not be able to hurt the Sun clan's ancestor. Fang Fifan scratched his head. He was sure that the person who did it wasn't Qianqing Di, and it definitely wasn't the 3 true fire spirit refinement realm cultivators from Sword King City. During this period of time, almost all of them had appeared in their respective territories, and none of them had appeared in Eastern Qi. Ing Bailu, who was standing beside Ing Sanshu, didn't say anything. But he had a feeling that it was extremely familiar. After thinking about it, he couldn't find any clues. So, Ing Bailu didn't care anymore. A junior like him didn't have the qualifications to speak here. After saying all this, Ing Sanshu turned around and was about to leave. Fang Fifan was stunned. Master San, are you going to leave just like that? Ing Sanshu said indifferently, what else can I do? Help the Lu clan and Sun clan find the culprit? The Shangshui clan isn't the Guanzhong torture room. People are killed every day in the pugilistic world, and forces are annihilated every year. If we have to care about all of them, wouldn't our Ing clan be too busy? After saying that, Ing Sanshu left indifferently. His attitude was incomparably cold. Qi Yuanli, who was at the side, asked in a low voice, Tower Lord, what should we do next? Fang Fifan snorted lightly. Even the Shangshui clan, the head of the 9 great clans, can't be bothered to care about these things. Of course, our wind-sweeping tower won't. Just spread this news to the pugilistic world. There's no need to say anything, just follow the facts. Wind-sweeping tower was curious about most things. Now that the 2 clans had died for no reason, Fang Fifan felt very uncomfortable. But Fang Fifan also knew that others could continue investigating this matter, but not their wind-sweeping tower. Someone who had the strength to annihilate 2 great clans and kill 2 true fire spirit refinement realm cultivators from the Sun clan and the Lu clan was definitely someone that wind-sweeping tower couldn't afford to offend. At this time, when this news came out in the pugilistic world, it almost caused an uproar in the pugilistic world. It was just too shocking. The Sun clan and the Lu clan were the 2 great clans that could be ranked in the middle among the 9 great clans. Both of them had experts in the true fire spirit refinement realm guarding them. But in the end, all of them died in one night. This was too shocking. The most shocking thing was that so many people died, but no one knew who did it. The other party could annihilate the 2 great clans without a sound. Did that mean that the other party could also annihilate other clans that were weaker than the Sun clan and the Lu clan without a sound? In short, this matter was a little strange. Moreover, the Sun clan from River East did not send all of their members to the Sun clan. Those who stayed behind to guard the Sun clan were also killed by a group of mysterious people. It was enough to show that the other party was targeting the Sun clan and the Lu clan. Some people suspected that this matter was done by the Yinma clan. After all, there were people from the Sun clan and the Lu clan among the forces that hit Chu Xiu when he was down. However, if it was done by the Yinma clan, they should have been eager to announce it. They would not have kept quiet all this time. Anyway, after this matter, the entire Eastern Qi pugilistic world was in a state of panic. Not to say that everyone was in danger. What people were afraid of was not a certain kind of powerful force. The most terrifying thing was the unknown. At this time, the culprit of this matter did not care about the news of the outside world. At the moment, Chu Xiu was in the Assassins branch of the Blue Dragon Society. After killing the Sun clan's and Lu clan's ancestors, Chu Xiu sensed that there were people from the wind-sweeping tower watching from the side. He immediately left secretly with Yi Xiao to look for Mu Zi and Luo Feiheng. By the time Chu Xiu arrived in Jiangdong, Mu Zi and Luo Feiheng had already taken care of everyone. One had to say that when it came to killing, the Blue Dragon Society was really professional. Although only a few people came, most of the people from the Sun clan were taken care of by the Blue Dragon Society. At this time, in the Blue Dragon Society, Luo Feiheng was leaning towards Mu Zi and asked, "I say, Chu Xiu, you are so strong now. You could even blow the head of the Lu clan's ancestor with one punch. Why are you still hiding? Just reveal your identity and take revenge one by one." Chu Xiu glanced at Luo Feiheng and did not say anything. This woman's motive was not pure. How could a woman who dared to go to a brothel to pick up girls be an ordinary woman? Of course, Mu Zi didn't mind. She just felt that this heroic big sister was a bit too enthusiastic. Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, "Haven't you heard of the saying, it's easy to dodge a spear in the open, but hard to guard against a stab in the dark? The unknown is the scariest. You can obviously set up a trap in the dark, so why reveal your identity and foolishly fight with them?" Luo Feiheng clicked her tongue and said, "Just say that you, Chu Xiu, are treacherous." After muttering, Luo Feiheng grabbed Mu Zi's arm and didn't let go. His hand unconsciously hugged Mu Zi's waist. Chu Xiu looked at Mu Zi and asked, "Zi, what's the reply from your adoptive father?" Mu Zi said, "Adoptive father said that he is willing to cooperate with young master, but there is only one condition. Bu Tiannan can die, but the Blue Dragon Society must be preserved." Chu Xiu nodded and said, "Of course, this is not a problem. The only person who has a grudge against me is Bu Tiannan. The Blue Dragon Society won't be affected. Moreover, don't forget that I used to be from the Blue Dragon Society. In fact, I still have feelings for the Blue Dragon Society." Mu Zi said, "That's good. Adoptive father said that he will find a chance to discuss with you in detail." Chu Xiu was surprised and said, "Isn't your adoptive father imprisoned in the Blue Dragon Society by Bu Tiannan?" Mu Zi said, "He is only imprisoned in the Blue Dragon Society, but adoptive father can still do other things. He has a secret treasure researched by the Black Tortoise School, so he can communicate with you from a distance. However, the fluctuations of the formation are too big, and it will easily attract Bu Tiannan's attention. So, we have to wait for a suitable time." Chu Xiu nodded. Once Duanmu Qian Shan looks for him, he would immediately let Mu Zi inform him. During this period of time, Chu Xiu was preparing to go into seclusion. Firstly, he wanted to familiarize himself with his body that had become stronger, and secondly, he wanted to cultivate the cultivation technique he had obtained from the Sun and Lu families, the Black Tortoise True technique. Chapter 856. The Sun family and Lu family were among the 9 great families, and their strength was not weak. This time, the two sides were able to fight to the death not only because of Chu Xiu's provocation, but also because of this secret art. Even a 9-revolution secret art might not be able to make the Sun and Lu families so excited. In Chu Xiu's view, this secret art was definitely a supreme secret art. Moreover, how could a secret art that could be collected and passed down by High Heaven sect be ordinary? This Black Tortoise True art was not a secret art of High Heaven sect, but was instead left behind by an ancient master. That master and the former High Heaven sect master were rivals, but they had a mutual respect for each other. He did not have a disciple, but after a fierce battle, when he was on the verge of death, he chose to pass on his secret art to High Heaven sect. The strength of this Black Tortoise True art lay in the fact that it was not a single secret art, but a collection of 10 secret arts. These 10 secret arts were, Peerless Saber Art, Seek the Heaven Spear Art, Heaven's Mandate Sword Way, Great Change Halberd Art, Tiger Roaring Staff Collection, Mountain and Sea Fist Scripture, black tortoise divine palm, fierce kick technique, perfect golden finger, and turtle bone dragon claw. This secret art was a combination of 10 martial skills: saber, spear, sword, halberd, fist, palm, leg, claw, and finger. It was simply amazing. Chu Xiu thought that the martial skills he possessed were diverse enough. He cultivated the Tao, Buddhist, and demonic paths, and was proficient in palm techniques, seal techniques, fist techniques, and saber techniques. However, this ancient master had actually combined 10 secret arts into one to form the Black Tortoise true art. It could be said that this master had gone further and stronger than Chu Xiu. Moreover, Chu Xiu could guarantee that the other party had cultivated these 10 martial skills to the extreme, reaching the point of mastery. The reason was simple. If you didn't cultivate one martial Tao to the extreme, how could you fuse it with other martial Tao? This, Black Tortoise true technique, could be said to be quite in line with Chu Xiu's taste, especially now that Chu Xiu needed to conceal his identity. It would be best if he didn't use those signature martial skills of the past. However, this, Black Tortoise true technique, forcefully condensed 10 martial skills into one body. It just so happened that in terms of martial skills, it could perfectly conceal Chu Xiu's identity. However, there was still another difficulty in cultivating the Black Tortoise true technique, and that was the problem of weapons. Some martial skills could only be used with weapons. With the secret space box, it was easy to carry around sabers, spears, swords, and halberds. However, Chu Xiu was too lazy to even use a low-grade divine weapon, let alone a precious weapon. Fortunately, the ancient powerhouse who created the Black Tortoise true technique seemed to have thought of this problem. Hence, there was also a blueprint for the refinement of weapons in the cultivation method, called the Heavenly War Box. The Heavenly War Box was not a type of weapon. It was a box filled with tiny mechanisms and arrays. When activated, those tiny parts of the mechanisms could instantly form sabers, spears, swords, and halberds. However, the refinement of the Heavenly War Box was too difficult. There couldn't be a single mistake in those tiny parts of the mechanisms. If there was a mistake, the entire Heavenly War Box would immediately collapse. Chu Xiu thought about it. In the current world, there were almost only a handful of people who were qualified to create the Heavenly War Box. Master Blacksmith Mo Yezi was one of them. This time, he still had to trouble Mo Yezi. Moreover, Chu Xiu trusted Mo Yezi enough. This old man had already resigned from his position as the pavilion master of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, but he was still willing to help Luo Feiheng to fight against the Luo clan. It was enough to show that he was closer to Luo Feiheng than to his own son. Therefore, Chu Xiu directly took out the top-grade materials he collected from the Lu clan and the Sun clan and asked Luo Feiheng to send them to Mo Yezi to help him create the Heavenly War Box. As for the remaining materials, it would be considered as a reward for Master Mo Yezi. In fact, the Mirror Lake Villa had not been doing too well in recent years. Of course, it was compared to when Mo Yezi was the pavilion master of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. When Mo Yezi was the pavilion master of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, he could use almost all the materials in the Divine Weapon Pavilion. But now, he was no longer the pavilion master. Although the Mirror Lake Villa also accepted forging requests, it could not be compared to the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Therefore, in recent years, Mo Yezi had forged very few divine weapons. There were only 2 or 3 of them, including Chu Xiu's Heavenly Demon Dance. Therefore, when he saw the unconstrained design of the Heavenly War Box, Mo Yezi was instantly moved. Even if he had to pay for the materials, he was still willing to forge it, not to mention that Chu Xiu had given him a lot of materials. However, Mo Yezi also had some old habits. When he forged a weapon, he first had to look at the person using the weapon. Luo Feiheng said a few words, and Mo Yezi was able to guess Chu Xiu's identity. Although he was shocked, Mo Yezi was not shocked for too long. He lived in the pugilistic world, but he could only be considered as half a member of the pugilistic world. He was not interested in the grudges and benefits of the pugilistic world. From his point of view, these things were not as interesting as the medal in his hands. Therefore, even though he knew, Mo Yezi did not say anything. He immediately turned all his attention to the heavenly war box. After everything was arranged, Chu Xiu went into seclusion to cultivate with peace of mind. Yi Shao was also thrown to the two experts of the Heavenly Assassins branch, Han Lei and Song Shao of the Blue Dragon Society's 4 great blood killers to train. From Chu Xiu's point of view, Yi Xiao's potential was not bad. This potential was not referring to his martial arts potential, but his temperament. Under normal circumstances, he could endure patiently. When it was time to be ruthless, he was not careless. He was worth training. Moreover, Yi Shao had helped him so much this time, so he was worth training. No matter what, he could be considered half a disciple of his. A month later, in the underground hall of the Heavenly Assassins branch, Han Lei and Song Shao were looking through some missions. During this period of time, because of Chu Xiu, whether it was Mu Zi or the two of them, they all stayed in the Heavenly Assassins branch and rarely went out to carry out missions. Most of the missions were handed over to their subordinates. For example, after Yi Shao was brought along by Han Lei and Song Shao to carry out 2 missions, he was thrown aside and went out to carry out missions alone. The Blue Dragon Society's training of assassins had always been very simple. When they sent you to kill someone, and you killed that person, then you would be a good assassin. If you were killed, then you would be trash. It was very simple and crude. Although Yi Shao was personally thrown over by Chu Xiu, Han Lei and Song Shao did not hesitate. They trained him as they should. This was because they believed that a piece of trash was not worth Chu Xiu's personal training. In the headquarters of the Heavenly Assassins branch, Han Lei and Song Shao did not wear masks. Song Shao was a middle-aged man with an ordinary appearance. He always had a smile on his face. When he grinned, there were a few more wrinkles on his brows. He looked like a kind old farmer. No one would believe that such a person was actually the top assassin of the Blue Dragon Society, one of the 4 great blood killers whose hands were stained with blood. At this moment, Song Shao was mumbling like a chatterbox, "Say, do you think the young miss is interested in Chu Xiu? From the looks of it, it seems like she wants to devote her life to him. But this is also good. The young miss has suffered too much these past few years. Such a beautiful woman has been soaking in a storm of blood every day. Not many men can stand it." As for Lord Chu Xiu, he was also born in the Blue Dragon Society. He can't be considered an outsider. To our young miss, he even saved her life. How nice would it be for her to devote her life to him? Song Shao often laughed, but Han Lei did not cry. He looked slightly younger than Song Shao, but his face was cold. A knife scar ran from his forehead all the way to his chin. It was as if he had almost been cut in half. Hearing this, Han Lei only said calmly, "Wrong. It's not a prince or a beauty. It's a demon and a female assassin. They are both bloodthirsty." Song Shao said angrily, "Why are you so insensitive? Who cares what he is, the young miss will have a good husband in the future, won't it? Besides, with such a connection, even if it's not the entire Azure Dragon Society, the second dragon head's bloodline will be in-laws with His Excellency Chu. Wouldn't it be great to have such a powerful backer?" Han Lei wiped his sword and said, "Everything depends on yourself. Don't always think of relying on others." Song Shao was so angry that he rolled his eyes. The two of them were not on the same wavelength. As he flipped through the mission, he muttered, "I've never worked with you my whole life." At this moment, Mu Zi walked over and said, "Uncle Han, Uncle Song, what are you talking about?" Song Shao hurriedly shook his head and said, "Nothing, young miss." "What's the matter?" Mu Zi's face was full of smiles as she said, "Godfather sent news." I will tell young Master Chu now. As she said this, Mu Zi jogged to find Chu Xiu. Song Xiao turned around and said to Han Lei, "How is it? Didn't I say young miss is interested in official Chu? Since when does young miss have such a happy time? The number of times she smiles in a year can be counted." Han Lei said indifferently, "Love is the most difficult word to understand. Only when you cut the threads of love with your sword do you know how painful it is. You are heartless. Using your eyes to look at young miss is laughable." Song Xiao rolled his eyes a few times. He felt that he had never been angered to death after working with Han Lei for so many years. His will was definitely strong. At this time, Chu Xiu was still in seclusion. He had already grasped the basics of Black Tortoise True technique. The difficulty was actually not too high. Most of the cultivation techniques, such as fist arts, palm arts, and saber arts, Chu Xiu had already dabbled in them, so he was able to learn them very quickly. As for those that Chu Xiu had not come into contact with, he needed to understand and cultivate them properly. Of course, it was easy to grasp the basics, but to completely master them was not something that could be done in a month. So for the rest of the time, Chu Xiu was familiarizing himself with the power of this body. Right now, Chu Xiu's realm was very strange. His physical body was already like Chenqingdi's, reaching the true fire spirit refinement realm. For people like the Sun family's old ancestor, he could destroy them with a wave of his hand. But his own realm was still the real pellet state. So he still had to comprehend the heaven and earth, to reach the true fire spirit refinement realm. This was not something that could be achieved by hard work. It also required opportunities and comprehension. At this time, hearing Mu Zi's voice coming from outside, Chu Xiu also immediately ended his seclusion and walked out. There should be news from Duanmu Qianshan. You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.